YouTube, Toxic Tackle here. Start working on our two-piece topwater bait. This is an example of one. We may do this shape later on. This is a single rear prop. This is more of a walk the dog bait. This one really gives you a lot of gliding action like a walk the dog, but it still has a prop on the back, so it has some flash to it. This is the one we're going to do. This is a two-piece single rear prop bait, balsa wood. This is one of mine. It's beat to death, but I mean it will catch them. We're going to make this bait, and I think we'll go ahead and make it a twin prop, put a prop on the front also. I do both styles. A single rear prop, it's a little more subtle. He'll sit down in the water like this, kind of like a brim feeding, and he gives a little walking action, and he stands up and flicks his, his little spinner will spin. So when the mayflies are on the water, this right here is just a jam up bait. Or when the brim are bedding and the bass are feeding on bed and brim, this is what you want. This is a wrapped bait. It's wrapped with the image of a fish and then airbrushed. So I mean it's really realistic looking. And this is all balsa wood, and it's a two-piece lure. There's two halves and there's one piece of wire that runs throughout. So this is the bait we're going to work on now. Alright, so I have some 1/4 inch thick balsa wood. It's just a 1/4 inch thick. I have two pieces of it. And I've already taken and drawn my pattern. This is the pattern I use, and this keeps them consistent. I've already traced it on here a couple times. You can lay it out to utilize much of the wood as possible. But what I'm going to do after I trace the pattern on there is I'm going to tack them together with super glue. I'm just going to put a little tiny drop of super glue about every, 3 or 4 inches, just to kind of hold them in place while I saw out my two halves of the lure. Just place some drips of super glue around, and they'll just little tiny drops just to hold it together. And this is just super glue you get at the hardware store, and it's not going to glue them permanent, but it's going to hold them enough for us to stick them together. And we're just going to hold them together. And I do have a piece of granite that I'll lay on top and let the glue dry for a minute. After the glue dries, I'll show you what we're doing. The glue's had plenty of time to dry. It's tacked together really good. We've got our pattern drawn out. We're going to go to the scroll saw. We're going to cut them out, and they'll be matching halves of each one. We'll cut out these three, and we're just going to turn around and do it on the scroll saw right here. And I don't need to show you that. You know what that is. We're just going to trace it with the scroll saw till we get our halves cut out. 3 of them cut out on the scroll saw. Sometimes I'll go to the belt sander and get a little closer to the line. You ain't got to get dead on the line, but you can go to the belt sander, or you can hand sand and get it real close to the line. Once you get them all uniform, cut out, then we'll go to the next step. So I took a little sandpaper and I dressed up all our cuts. I just sanded around it. It's still flat all the way around. I didn't put any shape to it yet. I'm going to take just a regular old razor knife, and it's just held together with a little dab of super glue. There's not much super glue. You find the seam and just break it apart. So we got two halves of our lure. We're going to lay it down here. We've got a 4-gram belly weight from Lure Parts Online. 4 grams is a perfect amount for a bait that you want to sit deep in the water with this size balsa wood. It's a pretty big bait. So 4 grams, just from experience, I know 4 grams works good. You can even add a shot of BB or something towards the tail if you want the tail to sit down a little more. I'll show you how we're going to shape and fit everything inside the two pieces. I've got an 1/8 inch high-speed Dremel cutter bit. It's just round, real sharp little cutter bit. I'll take my belly weight and I'll lay it on the lure where just the loop is sticking out. So I'll get a reference by laying it right at the belly of the plug. It'll give me a reference. I just want the loop to stick out. I don't want anything else to stick out. So once I lay it down here, I'll press down on it and make a little indentation so I can see where it is. So I made a little dent. You can see the dent. We're going to take our little Dremel tool and we're going to lay it right on top of that. Without breaking this edge here, we're going to lay it right inside and cut us a little groove. It's pretty simple. I'm going to hold it up so you can see it, but it's easier if you lay it down. You can take your Dremel and just start cutting a little perfect little groove like that. So we went about half as deep as what the belly plug will actually be. So we got 1/2 of it. We'll lay our belly plug on here. Lay it on there like so. And it's laying down in that groove we just cut. So we'll lay it back down here on a flat surface, take our top half, and just kind of eyeball it and line it up, and then just push down a little bit so it'll mark it, so you'll know where you need to match up with on this half. So it's real easy to dent this wood, so you're just real careful. I got a real flat surface here, so I'm going to Dremel out this side. You just take your time, clean off any of the little burrs you have, and then see if they'll drop the belly plug. But anyway, we got our 2 halves. We've took and kind of routed out the hole, and we'll just pre-fit them together and see how it fits with the belly, the lure belly plug in there. And we're off a little bit, so we're gonna have to match them up so the holes got off a little bit. So we took the Dremel, we routed out our little groove, and it's smaller down here, so the only thing you'll have is the hook eye sticking out right here. We'll take the 2 halves, we'll fit them together. We're going to have as much hook eye sticking out as we need to make sure everything's going to fit. This is important when you're fitting it up. You want about that much sticking out, because we're going to sand around it so they'll be more exposed. But your 2 halves should match up perfect with that piece inside. The groove, you won't be able to see this groove at all. When we finish, there'll be no seam for you to see at all. You'll do a bunch of sanding and all that, but we're going to be taking it back apart several times and fitting it. So we lay it down, we got our belly plug, it fits, it works perfect. We're going to take our 035 wire. You've seen all the materials we use in all the other videos. And we're going to straighten this wire up. And basically we're just going to lay this wire in there, and we're going to put a little V bend in it. We're going to take the wire, and I'll draw it on here so I got something to go by. The wire's going to go straight like that, and then it's going to turn and go down this way, and then it's going to come back up, and it's going to come straight out the back, right at the center. So you take your pin, I'm going to take the belly plug out for now. That's the wire pattern I want to use. We're going to have wire sticking out this end, wire sticking out this end, and we're going to bend a little V right there in the wire. So the wire will come straight back, go straight down, go back up, and go straight out the rear. And that'll keep the wire from being able to turn inside the lure once you get it all fit together. And everything will be epoxied and glued. Your wire won't move. You can build the center weight how we built the belly plug and the other lures. You can run your wire through that belly plug, make a loop, run it back through. I'm just doing it the fastest way. Now if you rip this out, you've done something. These things stay in there pretty daggum good once everything's epoxied and sanded and sealed. But if you want to build it like that, you watch the other videos, I showed you how to make a belly plug. It's pretty simple. You make a loop, you run it through a weight. You can take a weight like this, and you can make a loop. And you can run your wire with a one-piece wire all the way. I do that. That's time consuming, just for the sake of showing y'all I'm doing this one the way I do them when I build lures now. This is what I use.